And that is basically how you can make a babe like this and become the next Miss Drang Lake in Dark Souls 2. And now, for something not nearly as sexy as my character, something I originally intended to call Challenge Your Soul, but ended up calling it intentionally finding reasons to smack your head against a wall. Challenging your soul does something to it, and it's not in a good way. The same goes for your head. At least that's what happened to me. With that said, I will at least provide some advice throughout the game that might be helpful to you. Or maybe not. Maybe you already know the game way better than I do. But I might actually be the first person ever who have gone crying in the shower while smoking a couple packs of cigarettes because of this game. Anyway, the main reason the DLCs on New Game Plus were to punish myself because I lost footage from the main game. And secondly, this is basically how me and my brain talk to each other every single day.
I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
And finally, I had no idea whether or not it would actually be possible to do on New Game Plus. But sure, I hate myself enough to try it out. Fortunately, for now that's way down the road. For now, I just arrived at the Cardinal Tower where I light the bonfire, and after that, the next thing I want to do is get the mail breaker. On my way, I make a quick detour to the back of the room filled with ballistas, because there's a titanite shard in a chest. In the back of the room there's also a door, and behind that there's a chest with a large titanite shard in it. But I will pick it up later, but you can pick it up right away if you want to. But my character is absolutely stunning. But for now, I'm heading back up the ladder, out and towards the mail breaker. For some reason, when I got to the room where the mail breaker is, I equipped the broadsword, and I don't really know why, since I could just bait all the enemies out by the window, and then I climbed up the ladder to go around once more and then claim the mail breaker. Even though I can't wield the mail breaker properly yet, I at least have it in my possession. So now it's just a matter of getting enough souls so I can level up and wield the mail breaker properly. So in order to deal with that problem, I finished up here by opening the shortcut right before the last giant, and then I head back to Majula. Now I'm heading straight towards Hyde's Tower of Flame, because here it's possible to get some very easy souls. Without even swinging a weapon, to be honest. And I have seen enough Distortion 2 videos to know that it's possible to just run right through this area without too much trouble. I guess you could get into trouble if you tried that crazy jump he does, landing near the Ring of Binding. For the Dragon Rider, it's simply just a matter of counting 6 steps and rolling to the right side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. With the Dragon Rider out of the picture, I finally have enough souls to level up dexterity and be able to properly wield the mail breaker. And here's a bit of advice. Always prioritize adaptability. Always. coming into this section, you can easily just ignore this guard and run right past him to get the undead bone shard.
Doing to try and stop him?
I guess he's just really lazy. With a sublime bone dust and enough stats to wield the Mailbreaker, I charged in to take on the last giant. And since he's such an easy boss, taking him down even with a Mailbreaker is not a problem. And another good tip is, don't get stomped on like I did. It hurts, can confirm. After the last giant, it's the pursuer. And if you want my advice, just stand right here and wait for him to come. Then you run over here and jam your sweet Mailbreaker straight into this ballista and nuke him. It just works wonders. 10 out of 10. After taking flight with Big Bird, I arrive at the Lost Bastille. Nearby, there is conveniently enough a large Titanite shard, and close to that, a fragrant branch of yore. After picking up these items, I ignored the pursuer and headed straight towards the antiquated key. Above the antiquated key and Lucatiel, there's a large Titanite shard that I pick up as well. After that, I'm gaining access to Macduff's workshop, not because I'm going to need him, but because there are some very important upgrade materials in his workshop. Also, I'm only gonna purchase a single large Titanite shard. I think we can all agree that seeing my character dressed down like this is the real treasure here. Also, my starting gift was a bonfire aesthetic, and it will be used back at the Cardinal Tower bonfire, because after it's been used there, the first chest where I picked up the Titanite shard, it will contain 3 Titanite chunks. And as I will show you now, like I mentioned earlier, in this room is the chest with the large Titanite shard in it. With a +8 weapon, it is time to head into the darkest corners of No Man's Wharf. Not because I want to, but because I have to. And it's really spooky because it's dark down here. And I put out my torch because I simply have to hide my beautiful face in this place. I don't want to get chased by 48 exiled pirates or whatever. I'm an exile too, but different kind. Because these guys are hollows and I'm a clinically insane freak of nature. And a very good advice is to always open the shortcuts, because this is Dark Souls 2 and anything can go wrong at any time. So always be mindful of that. And now it's time to test out the Mailbreaker against the Flexile Sentry. It's +8 and the damage is surprisingly nice. I had expected it to be lower, so this is fine. My only concern is the water rising, but at this pace it should be no problem whatsoever. And besides, I don't need to get back here anyway. With the Flexile Sentry out of the way, I can finally head out towards the first Lord Soul. Okay, up next I'm headed towards the Shaded Woods. So I purchased some alluring skulls. Now I'm freeing Rosabeth.
Indeed.
Here it's just a good idea to use alluring skulls to keep these disgusting enemies distracted. I don't want to get touched by that big sacks. Ew! This door takes forever to open. Up next, I'm picking up the red tearstone ring, because 1, I have seen plenty of masochistic people using it, and and it seems to be giving a really nice boost in terms of damage. And 2, I have actually never really used the Red Tearstone Ring before, and you will definitely be able to tell that I'm not, because I keep on healing back to full health. And the reason I'm using this footage for Nazca is because I have lost footage, but also she didn't get a chance to bury herself underground, and I think that's a first for me. So, pretty cool. After she has been dealt with, I just ran past the doors of Pharaohs and straight into the Royal Army campsite. I'm pretty sure most people who have played DS2 knows this, but you can use the alluring skulls to lure out the peasants and the boulder will kill them. Much like this ledge did with me. Even after all these years, to this day, I cannot get my head around that the Prowling Makers and Congregation are an actual boss fight. I mean, this boss is just a joke. The upside is that, however, it grants a Titanite slap. That's nice, I guess. After they have been dealt with, I'm heading straight into Zeldora. The homing of that projectile though. Shit! Before Freya, I pick up the upgrade materials for the Mail Breaker, so now I can get it to plus 10. And since I had the final bonfire of this neighborhood, I think I'll just head right in and snag myself the first Lord Soul. Oh yeah, and very beautiful hitboxes. I hope we see more of that in Elden Ring. Like I said, this is Dark Souls 2 and anything can go wrong at any time. But with patience, navigation and some determination, this fight is doable. It's a bit of a pain in the ass to one-hand the Mail Breaker like this, but having a torch in the other hand to keep the smaller spiders at bay, and since this is a rather long fight, I would not suggest you using alluring skulls to keep the spiders away. Mainly because that you're very limited in terms of how many alluring skulls you can have at this point in the game. The key is to just prioritize your health, because, well, you can't win if you're dead. A really annoying feature about Freya is the fact that she stomps the ground and it can really slow you down and fuck you over if you're not paying attention to it. I'm speaking from experience. The reason I picked Freya first was because the upgrade materials were nearby, and since I had the bonfire so close to her, I figured might as well just go all in and take her down. Another reason I took down Freya first is because I think she's a bigger pain in the ass than the Lost Sinner, so I'd rather get some of the more difficult out right away and then have some of the easier stuff later on. With Rom the Vacuous Spider out of the way, sexy times will be had by all.
Bearer, seek, lest.
Okay, so the next lord I'm going to take down will be the Old Iron King. I think the route to the Old Iron King is very long, so might as well get it over with. I start off by facing Grave Lord Nito's grandchildren. And yeah, it's a rather tedious fight. And my advice for dealing with the Grave Lord Nito's grandchildren is simply that you take down one of his grandchildren, then you take out all the subsequent skeletons, the grandchildren spawn, and after that it's on to the next grandchild, so on and so forth. And it's not a bad idea to use alluring skulls to create some distance between you and the enemies if you feel like you're being overcrowded or need to heal. But for the fight itself, I really don't have much to say. It's fairly straightforward. The only thing is that all the smaller skeletons that spawns is that they have a tendency to all stick together to each other, so it can become more difficult to get actual hits in. But you can take some chances like I did and get a few attacks in. Just make sure you're aware that they won't come up from behind or attack you from the side or anything like that. It is Dark Souls 2 after all. After that fight, it is just straight to Earthen Peak. Ah, the Earthen Peak. The land of babes and desert sorcerers. They are hot, but they are very annoying. And I'm not talking about the desert sorcerers. I know what I said. And if you didn't know, according to the lore, the reason these desert sorcerers have to hide their faces is actually not because of Mytha. It is because the bearer of the curse is able to achieve absolute divine beauty through the power of the character creator, but the desert sorcerers are not. So yeah, now you know. That is also why the hollows are running around shirtless, because nothing is sexier than a shirtless hollow. For Jabba the Hutt, I really don't have much to say. I think he's either very weak to thrust or has very low HP, so maybe try finger, but hole. I press on, I head deeper into the mill, and seeing this guy just make me wanna throw my mail breaker at him. But I'm really glad I can't, because then I would be without a weapon and that would really suck. Anyway, I'm just running and baiting these enemies around so I can get up the ladder into the next bonfire. After I got here, I just suicide ran and set the mill ablaze. Because yeah, it removes the poison in the area, and don't ask me why that makes sense, but it does. Now it's time to take on Mytha, and I can tell you that I don't like Mytha. She thinks she's more beautiful than my character, and come on. She's the baneful queen, whereas I am the babeful queen. And also, wasn't she the one who got rejected by her lover? That would have never happened if she was as beautiful as my character. The fact she cannot even see that after she's thrown her face in my face. Snake atop the mill. You know who I'm about. I cannot even. Up next is Iron Keep, and it sure as hell can go fuck itself. I hate this place with a burning passion, pun intended. So my recommendation is simply just use speedrunning strats and go for the jump. Granted, this jump took me approximately 50 to 70 attempts to pull off, but I'd still recommend it. It's still better than running through the area, in my opinion. Climbing up this ladder, it's either a matter of dealing with the enemies or make a run for it. After all, this is Dark Souls 2, and anything can go wrong at any time. And just because anything can go wrong at any time doesn't mean that it have to, right? But I was sure I was gonna die on my way here. Now it's time for the Smelter Demon. And you could definitely be way better prepared for this. But like I said, I ran through the first part like 50 or 70 times or so, and I lost a lot of my healing items. But nevertheless, if you just keep an eye out for your stamina and your health, you should be able to do just fine. There's a good chance you will do even better than me. So, and be mindful of your HP, because it takes away when you get too close to him, and You pretty much have to get close to him with the mail breaker. And in a scenario like this, with very limited healing items, you can't really afford to take any hits. Due to the unfortunate circumstances with my healing items, I couldn't really afford to take any hits, though that still happens, as you will see. And my performance is present. Yeah, it's not the best, but I still managed to take down the Smelter Demon, and I count that as a win. And now for the fight versus the Pursuer. This took such a long time, and god damn it, I had no idea I could stay focused for that long, or just get lucky through an entire fight. But since I took him down the first time with a ballista, it only seemed fair to give him a second chance to fight for himself. And I'm pretty sure that during this fight I experienced something I'd like to call masochistic adrenaline. Because I got the red tearstone ring activated, but I was also very low on health. But instead of healing like I usually do, I took advantage of the red tearstone ring. And yeah, now I think I know how masochistic gamers feel like whenever they use the red tearstone ring. And in a game with hitboxes such as Dark Souls 2, you will really be on the edge for a fight that lasts this long. You're probably wondering, doesn't it get worse? And yeah, it does. It gets much, much worse. I was rather astounded by my own performance. How could I do it? How was this possible? Is this what they do all good? Oh fuck, the forlorn!
Cooking in a burnt pan, you fucking dick!
Pulling that lever for some sweet, sweet music. Now, for the very fun part of Iron Keep, the place that most definitely not will infuriate you, make you rage quit or smack your head against a wall and forget this place ever existed. But after I died around 8.3 million times, I finally got through. But this area to the next bonfire can go fuck itself. I hate Alon Knights, they are the worst enemies in Dark Souls 2 in my opinion. I've always hated them and I always will hate them. Fuck those knights and fuck Iron Keep. At least my character is still very sexy despite being hollowed. Also, the frustration is mainly because of the fact that I'm only stuck with a mail breaker and nothing else. For this next section, I just waited for the knights to fire their bows, then I just ran and jumped down. They didn't chase me though. I don't know if they usually do, or maybe I got lucky, but I'll take it. So far so good. Now it's just a matter of getting through the rest of this huge pile of shit. The reason this footage is New Game Plus is because this place pissed me off so much that I actually just forgot about all the recording and shut down my PS. So yeah, I guess stuff like that happens when you put yourself through hell. Finally, the last bonfire of Iron Keep before the boss. I've made it this far and it has only taken me like 3 days or so, I don't know. And man, my head is already hurting. And this is just the second Lord Soul. But this and Freya are the most difficult bosses to get to. So when the old Iron King is taken down, this entire mess can be left behind once and for all.
I fucking hate Iron Keep!
The old Iron King is by no means a difficult boss. The real boss in this arena is the pool of lava. Just avoid falling into it, unlike me. But the worst part of Iron Keep is over. Getting to the old Iron King is not very difficult after reaching the final bonfire. However, I will admit that during the second section from the Smelter Demon bonfire to the final bonfire, I might have ended up smacking my head against various things, and maybe not, I might have started bleeding out my ears. But that is just a minor detail. A nice thing with this boss is the fact that there's a tiny corner to the left side where it's possible to get behind and just heal up. I wonder how many people have thrown dung pies into the mouth of the old Iron King. And with that, the worst parts of the main game is over. 2 down, 2 to go. Remember those sexy times I talked about earlier? Well, these are those times. Because the worst part of getting the Lord Souls is over. Now it's just a matter of reaching the final bonfire in this area and then beating the crap out of the poo in the pit.
Yes, indeed.
My god, this guy takes forever! I wanted to heal up before I faced off against the poo of the well, but I completely forgot there were an invader during the time I actually arrived at the bonfire.
Times. Just
So
look at his
yeah,
fashion.
I got assaulted
sexiness.
from behind, which sucked. But the good thing is that he's very lightly dressed, so he staggers easily, even with the mail breaker. So yeah, that's really nice. It's just a matter of watching out for his attacks and make... What the fuck? I mean, never mind. Up next, it's the poo in the pit. Let's go! Why didn't I just kill the rotten 4 times in a row? It would have been so much easier than gathering all the Lord Souls. I guess I have a knack for hating myself. A funny thing about the Rotten's arena is that if you try to take him down with rings only, is you can use the fire pits in the arena to proc the Olson ring. You just gotta make sure you have plenty of repair powder, and the bracing knuckle ring is probably a good idea too. I tried to take him down that way, but I did not succeed. But maybe someone else is up for the task? I'm not even sure if equip load and Havel set is gonna be helpful. Out of all the 4 Lord Souls, Freya and the Lost Sinner are definitely the hardest, in my opinion. And so yeah, it really sucked when I found out that I had lost my footage for my fight with the Lost Sinner, so I had to use a bonfire static. And yeah, suddenly it becomes a bigger pain in the ass than it ever were before. Because if you are unfamiliar with it, on New Game Plus, the Lost Sinner gets 2 pyromancers to assist her in the boss fight. And they can be a real pain in the ass, arguably the actual boss of the fight itself. Now for the Lost Sinner herself, she's quick and has this move where she parry stands, I guess. Other than that, she's fairly straightforward. Besides also the darkness, obviously, but that's easily taken care of if you have the Bastille key. This is also by far one of my worst performances. But much like Michael Scott's best-selling book, somehow I manage. And with that, it's safe to say night night, don't let the chaos bug bite. And after she's finally taken care of, I can finally head towards Dranglake Castle. This next section will be a very long run, but for the sake of this video I will cut it short. So, getting the 4 Lord Souls has been a breeze. I've only bled out of my ears a few times because of Iron Keep. But, that aside, now there will be some more tough obstacles along the way. And if you're unlike me, you will definitely not go the same route as I will. Because I really do hope that you don't hate yourself just as much as I hate myself. Anyway, gaining entrance to Dranglake Castle can go suck on a frozen shit. That's just a huge annoyance to have to kill these guys, wait for the golems and then just run around and wait for the doors to open. And just to add salt to injury, on New Game Plus there's even a red phantom, and on my playthrough I'm pretty sure was invaded by the Forlorn as well. So yeah, that was just really fun. Could you excuse me one moment? The bleeding in my ear seems to have come back. Okay, there we go. I finally managed to stop the bleeding, I think. Something I've always wondered about Nashandra is that she seems pretty cool with everybody just running right past her instead of actually kneeling to her, since she is a royalty. But either she's just pretty cool with people running right past her, or maybe she thinks that the Dragon Riders will stop anyone that runs right past her, which certainly would be insane. Then again, the entire design of Dranglake Castle is quite insane. I mean, why are there doors in the castle that only humans can fit through, when there's so many other larger beings roaming around here? It doesn't make any sense. Am I going insane? I might be. It might also explain why I'd rather have you looking at my very, very beautiful character while I explain the next section instead of actually showing it. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna climb up a ladder, you're gonna bait out some enemies, kill an enemy near a golem to activate an elevator where you get back down, get up the elevator, open a door, then get the key to the King's Passage, then get back down either by elevator or homeward bone, and then open the door, and then you can finally head on to the boss. From this point it's just a matter of reaching the boss arena, which is the easiest part of this entire section. The Looking Glass Knight hits hard, but he's somewhat easy to get around. You can circle strafe, roll or whatever tickles your fancy. But avoid the side where his shield is, because if you attack, your weapon will just bounce right off. I really like the Looking Glass Knight. I like how they made something unique for this boss. For instance, the raining plus his lightning damage. It's an evil combo, but it's a nice touch. And the fact that it's possible for other players to get summoned into the boss fight if you're online is a really cool mechanic. It would have been cool if we had seen more of that mechanic in either Bloodborne or Dark Souls 3. And no, Half-Life does not count. He also doesn't count as a boss because he's too weak to be considered a boss. Besides, in this fight with the Looking Glass Knight, you're fighting alongside him, you're not taking his place as with Half-Life. But maybe we will see something similar to this in Elden Ring. I guess time will tell. Don't roll like that. To all my luck, the Looking Glass Knight did not summon any other players even though I was online. I really feared that he would, because this was recorded during Return to Dragon Lake 2022. So yeah, I really thought there would be other players invading my boss fight. I'll highly recommend picking up the Spell Quartz Ring plus 2, since it will be useful in the Shrine of Amana. Okay, now the headache increases. So first off, I'm showing you my stats because this is my other character, and I'm level 106 currently. And I know what you're thinking. How is it possible that I could make another such beautiful, delicate flower? And well, that is because this is Dark Souls 2, and it has the best character creator. And people who don't see that are people you can't trust, because they don't have enough insight to see it or understand it. Another reason I mentioned my level is because I have not used the Zeldora set to gain additional souls. I've only used the +1 Silver Serpent ring. So if you were to do this, chances are you would be a higher level than I am. This next part, that's really where the headache increases. I hate Iron Keep, but I sure as hell do hate Shrine of Amana equally. This section in particular. This area brings back so many painful memories. My first time I played through this area, I played as a knight, with a sword and a shield and no leveling up in adaptability whatsoever. My first time I thought adaptability was a completely useless stat. Boy, was I wrong. I still have PTSD from that. I also tried running through the area, but that just won't fly in the shrine. I fucking hate Shrine of Amana. It's just such a giant middle finger to melee only builds. So I did the only thing I could think of. Just kill everything. So I did exactly that. Everything in Shrine of Amana hates you, so why not just hate it right back? Unparalleled accuracy. Just take that mail breaker and jam it right into their eye sockets. It sure would be nice to go for a swim, but we don't have that luxury now, do we? So instead, let's paint the water red with these fox. After clearing out the first section, I press on, because there's still plenty of enemies who need stabbing. I killed everything in my path up until this point, and I sure as hell ain't done. Whereas instead of going along with the ruins, I went another route instead. I ran along the left side of the area, and even though there are enemies in the water, they are very easy to deal with. After I cleared them out, I baited the melee guy away from the mage. Hey, asshole! I baited him back to where I came from, because the mages don't have any way of hitting me back here. And then after he's taken care of, I just went straight for the mage, and after she's taken down, it's just a matter of repeating the same process over from here. The only difference is that there's no more enemies hiding in the water from this point and until the fog gate. So why didn't I use the Tildora set? Well, fashion. Fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee. So for this final section of this area, I tried to bait one of the two melee guys, but unfortunately both of them caught my attention and I had to deal with both at once. Unfortunately, they healed. Fortunately, they were easy to deal with. So yeah. Boom! Next bonfire. I reached the final bonfire of this area, so now it's just a matter of getting through the final stretch and take down the boss of the area, Mr. Toad. Finally we're here, Kermit the Frog. He hits very hard, so be careful of his attacks. He also has an annoying charge attack which has no wind up whatsoever, and that is bullshit. Otherwise the fight itself is fairly straightforward. It's just a matter of attacking his face whenever he's done attacking. This is the attack I was talking about. That wasn't too bad. It's just a giant frog. I will only say this once. The Mailbreaker is actually not that bad of a weapon against Velstad. It's fast, stamina friendly, reliable, and have thrust damage. But he's somewhat easy to get around, and with the low stamina consumption of the Mailbreaker, it's easy to get a few hits in and still be able to roll away from him. And if you need to heal, make sure it's after he's finished attacking, or it's at an end of a combo he's doing. Otherwise, there's some pretty good chances he will kill you. But after defeating Velstad, I can finally pick up the King's Ring. And then I'm quickly gonna wrap up the final steps before everything goes straight to hell. First up is the Guardian Dragon, which is an annoying boss because you have to get really close with the Mailbreaker in order to hit him. And he flies around a lot, so that takes some time too. But simply stick to the edges whenever he's in the air and pay attention to when his feet is stomping, because they can have some rather peculiar hitboxes. Just remember, easy does it. After the Guardian Dragon has been dealt with, it's time to get to Dragon Shrine and pick up the Ashen Mist Heart. Up next it's the Giant Lord, and he's arguably the easiest boss in the game, because he only has few attacks that he uses, like he swings his sword and stomps the ground. That's basically it. And because his attacks are so slow, they are easy to avoid. So just poke him to death. See? Easy peasy, nice and breezy. My God. I still cannot believe I have created something so beautiful. Up next are the Throne Watcher and Defender, and they are the main reason why I enabled environmental damage. So I'm gonna abuse the ledge to make the Watcher fall off and then take the Defender out. I know it kind of trivializes the fight, but that doesn't matter. Because the thing about this boss is that they suck, okay? And I don't mind multiple bosses in a boss fight, such as Champions Grave Tender and Grave Wolf, Bell Gargoyles and Living Failures for instance. But these two just suck. Even the Prowling Magus and Congregation is a better fight than this. There's no way around it, they just suck. If you want, you can proceed to kill Nashandra and say you finished the main game with a Mailbreaker, with no weapon buffs, no infusions, bright box or resins. Congratulations! But that is not why I am here. I am here to suffer. One of the first things I did after this was obtaining the +2 Bracing Knuckle Ring. Now I'm getting into some really tough shit, and I'm starting off by getting access into the first DLC. I already warned you about not trying this at home, right? Also, bear in mind that poisoning with the butterfly set is not allowed. So buckle up, because this is going to be painful. Very, very painful. And this section takes a lot of time. So be patient and make sure you're always at full health. Or use the newly found glitch where you can kill one of the golems and quit out. I am so glad I heard about that after I did this. If you want some advice on dealing with both of them at once, just use a hit and run tactic. Because these two guys seems to be standing together all the time. So you can try and bait out some attacks and get a few hits in here and there, and eventually you will get them. But it takes like I say, it takes a long time. And make sure to use the cape so you have a chance to get yourself back at full health if it's necessary. If only looks could kill, because my beauty would make them all drop dead. But unfortunately this is Dark Souls 2, and beauty holds no value here despite having the greatest character creator. I'm pretty sure that if my character and I ever should meet, she would stab me with the mail breakers for dragging her through this shit on New Game and New Game Plus. I mean, she'd probably stab me somewhere, my foot and my nose. Sure, you can wear something else than the butterfly set. After all, it is Dark Souls 2, and it is a big game with a big selection of fashion. I just really like the butterfly set and don't want to use anything else, for now anyway. To each their own. Finally, it's time to face the king, Vendrick. And this is going to be a very, very, very long fight. Because my damage is pathetically low against him. So I figured the +2 bracing knuckle ring might be a good fit since this fight was going to take a long time. And I didn't want to be too dependent on repair powder. There will also be timestamps in the top left corner, so you can skip to the end of the boss fight if you want to. As for Vendrick himself, he's not a problem. He has a wide swing attack and an overhead attack, a jumping attack I think. His attacks are by no means difficult to avoid. The problem with him is when he actually hits you, because he hits so hard and staggers you like crazy. It's really like being hit by a truck, so it is definitely not impossible for him to just two-shot you if you're not careful. And when you compare to how pathetic my damage is, yeah, it's just a battle of attrition and endurance. Well, that's 45 minutes of my life I'm never getting back. But nevertheless, now it's time to head into the first DLC. So first up is Shulva the Sunken City. And I am definitely not terrified of doing this on New Game Plus at all. I am very, very excited. Did I say Sunken City? Did I piss my pants? Huh, I guess I did. Well, it was not because of fear, it was because of the excitement. And unfortunately, I'm unable to fly across this tiny gap despite having these cute wings. So while I was stuck down here, I made an exception and equipped the bow and arrows. I needed something to hit the pillar with so I could get back up. I'm sure you can jump across, but I'm not sure if that requires a bow to aim with or not. Either way, I'm on my way back up. And shortly after this, the most Dark Souls 2 thing happened. I died. But nevertheless, now I can actually proceed further into the DLC. Like the rules said, I'm only allowed to deal damage with the mail breaker. Rings also allowed. But I'm not allowed to deal damage with a bow. Shooting a pillar is okay. But anyway, what comes around goes around. I guess I got what I deserved by dying afterwards. But for now, it's time to proceed further into the DLC. Fuck! Huh, I gotta say, I think that message was right. I gotta say, I think the concept for the first DLC, the whole idea that your bow becomes more than a weapon, that's pretty cool. I'm quite sure that it's inspired by the Zelda series, and I really hope we see a bit more of it in Elden Ring. I guess time will tell, and we're getting pretty close to the release date. Coming into this room, the first thing I did was pressing the button so I had opened the wall into where you get the dragon stone. Right after, I climbed up the ladder to take out the caster who's standing up here, because she can easily interrupt you when you're opening the chest. But be careful, because when she's taken out, she will spawn a cloud of poison. After that, I tried to get the attention of the transparent enemies so I could bait them a bit away from where the chest is, which would give me some more time to get the dragonstone. There we go, that wasn't too bad. My advice for this area is simply just ignore Jester Thomas and head straight towards the altar where you insert the dragonstone. I do want to apologize if my cut seems too fine between. It's just that since this is my first recorded challenge run, I felt like the proper thing to do would be to include as much footage as possible. So instead of cutting too much away, I chose to speed up the process instead. And sure, I could have left out a lot of footage I have lost anyway, instead of replacing it with New Game Plus, but I felt like it would be better to present it whereas you can see me actually getting through the area with only the mail breaker and nothing else. Just to prove that it's not only the bosses that can be challenging, but the areas as well. It is also why I included timestamps. Or do you prefer if it's shorter cut and it's more focused on the bosses? Or are you equally interested to see how the areas are being handled as well? I'd genuinely like to know, so leave a comment. And finally, the time has come to face off against the first DLC boss, Elana, the Squalid Queen. Elana is hands down one of the coolest bosses in the Soul series. Her attacks and spells, she has a decent moveset. It's really nice. I'm not gonna lie, I still think she's one of the hardest bosses of Dark Souls 2. And god damn, she have killed me a fuck ton of times. And you might have noticed that I have changed into Havel's armor, because it turns out it's actually quite good. In terms of poise at least. And that is really helpful in a fight like this, where things can get really crazy. So it's really important that you don't get interrupted when you're either throwing, alluring skulls or trying to heal. Because I was so fortunate that during this fight she did not summon Velstad at any point. It was only the skeletons. I have no idea if I just got lucky or good RNG, but I'll take it. Another good advice, if you want to do this, is that you can basically kill 2 out of 3 skeletons and keep the last one distracted with alluring skulls. Don't be afraid to abuse them in a fight like this, because with enough alluring skulls you can easily deal with Alana alone without the skellies bothering you too much. And even though this is New Game Plus, because I hate myself, I at least can dual wield mail breakers. But to be completely honest with you, it's way better to just two-hand one instead. Yeah! God damn it, that felt good taking it down with a mail breaker. And it felt even better on New Game Plus. Now it's just the final boss of the first DLC. Sin, the Slumbering Dragon. He's big, annoying and likes to fly around a lot. So make sure that you have brought enough repair powder and the +2 bracing knuckle ring for this fight. Because it will drag on, pun intended. But just keep calm and remember the words, easy does it. And despite his large size, he can still be quite tricky to hit with a tiny weapon as the mail breaker. A thing I did throughout this fight was looking for his tail whenever he was in the air, and then I ran slightly to the left of it, just to be sure that I wasn't in line of him or any of his attacks. I have no idea if it worked or not, but I seem to be doing just fine by using that strategy. Be mindful that Sin is also capable of spewing fire backwards, meaning that if you're attacking his tail or his hind legs, chances are he will spew fire back towards you, so be mindful of that. Because I have a special case of hating myself, I didn't think too much about upgrading my Estus flask. But that would definitely have been better to do in a fight like this, because I was so much more dependent on life gems. So if you want to do this, just upgrade the Estus flask. I wasn't quite sure whether or not I should have dual-wielded the mail breakers instead of two-handed it like I said earlier, but I actually thought more about the durability of the weapons rather than the damage. And with Sin taken down, the first DLC is completed. So up next I can dive head first into madness, despair and loss of sanity. Let's go! Broom Tower on New Game Plus with a mail breaker only. What could possibly go wrong apart from breaking your brain and crushing your soul and your will to live, and you end up smacking most of your possessions with your head? Other than that, what could go wrong? Also, did I warn you about not trying this at home? Well, there's no time like the present. Don't do this unless you want a reason to smack your head against a wall or any other object for that matter. And even that is not a valid excuse. The first real trouble in this DLC are the huge gates that has to be opened with a lever. Fortunately, the alluring skulls works wonders in this DLC, so it's just a matter of abusing them. Unfortunately, this huge guy at the gate is not affected by alluring skulls, so it's a matter of trying to kite him around and navigate your way around him so you actually get enough time to open the gate. And getting through this next section to the Iron Scepter can be a real pain in the ass, because these enemies in the section is resistant to anything but physical damage. So even against these enemies the mail breaker is actually nice. Or you can just ignore all the enemies and run right through. The enemies near the Iron Scepter is also very susceptible to alluring skulls, so again, don't be afraid to abuse them. After picking up the Iron Scepter, it's just a matter of getting back to the fire bonfire and then head down toward the Fume Knight. Thank you Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin. For this next section I'd highly recommend using alluring skulls. And by using, I mean abusing them. Spam them, throw them everywhere. Because getting through this section without any alluring skulls, that is a pain in the dick. I would also like to say that I'm so glad that I did this. because now I can show you what an intentional reason to smack your head against a wall really looks like. The Fume Knight on New Game Plus, without any offensive rings, no buffs, no boost, no infusions, no resins or no bright box. Only Mailbreaker. I am so glad I hate myself so much to put myself through this. This is what being Shoryukened up the ass really feels like. This took me approximately 3 hours and 6 days, which is kind of funny because it will take me approximately 3 months and 6 years to fully recover from this, if I ever will. If you want my advice against the Fume Knight in a fight like this, just completely ignore his health bar and only pay attention to what he does and your health bar and stamina. Always be having an eye on your stamina because stamina management is key in a fight like this. But you can also just equip Velstad's helmet and the Fume Knight will immediately recognize you as Shalquoir. He will then give you the key to the seal where you then can proceed to kill the Grandpa of Kos and link the Throne of Cinders. Holy fuck. I think I blew my brains out. Thanks a lot, Fume Knight. Now I have to go look for a band-aid. So, while I do that, I'm just gonna let the rest of this video play out and you will see me afterwards. If I can find a band-aid, that is. Alright, I found a band-aid. Water resistant. And just in time for the third DLC, Ilium Lois. What a beautiful and magical kingdom. Until you stumble onto those knights standing around, then the magic goes away. Fortunately, they are also very easily distracted with alluring skulls, so again, just abuse them. And then I just rush to the priestess eyes and then head straight for Ava. Did I say that I really dislike Ava? It is possibly one of the worst fights in the entire Dark Souls series. It's definitely on par with Throne Watcher and Defender. And as it is with all the DLC bosses on New Game Plus, Ava 2 will take some time. So the first DLC boss, Ava, arguably one of the worst, if not the worst, boss of the entire Soulsborne series. I really don't like him. He has some really unreliable and lingering hitboxes. You have to really delay your rolls in order to avoid his attacks. And if you're going to heal, make sure you do it whenever you feel like you would attack him instead. And whenever you see Ava starts using his magic projectiles, quickly run to either his right or his left side. You will be able to get a few attacks in before he moves again. And then he just hurts a fuck ton. And even though I have completely lost my mind at this point, I still cannot see the logic behind your weapon loses durability faster against a giant tiger with pelt, rather than against someone like the Fume Knight who has a big giant metallic armor on. He probably wears your weapon down faster than Sin too. I guess I don't know what I was expecting from this game. Like I said earlier in this video, anything can go wrong at any time. Besides that, I have nothing else to say about Ava. I will on the other hand talk about the fact that under these conditions, the Fume Knight, he caused me an ungodly amount of brain hemorrhaging. I mean, my ears were bleeding like faucets, and that really did something to my brain and my soul. And I know there are plenty of other masochistic players who have done way worse challenge runs than this. Then again, masochism comes in many shapes and forms. It's also the reason I chose to restrict myself further than to just only use the mail breaker. Because if I could use poison knives and bright bugs and resins and spell buffs and what have you not, all the good stuff, this challenge run would definitely be way easier. Needless to say, the fight with the Fume Knight definitely left its impact on me. And Ava is just a giant frozen asshole. Okay, now I have absolutely nothing left to say about Ava. I gotta admit, killing Ava with a mail breaker only felt kinda good. And it felt even better doing it on New Game Plus. Wait, I've already said that before. Yep, it's confirmed I've completely lost my mind. At least we're getting pretty close to the end. So now it's just a matter of rescuing the Ilium Lois Knights to help us with the final boss of this DLC. I'd quickly like to say that I also really hate the lower garrison area and all it entails. Don't get me wrong, it's not worse than Horsefog Valley, but it gets pretty fucking close with those small hedgehogs or whatever they are supposed to be. And if you don't know what Horsefog Valley is, just know that life has been good to you. Life has been really, really good to you. But back to these hedgehogs here. They deserve to be locked up in a very tiny room with way too many explosives and blown to pieces. I don't even want to think about how mad it would be if one of these hedgehogs traded places with Ava. So you had to find a giant hedgehog instead. That would just... Holy shit. That thought really, really hurt my head. I'm so glad that's not the case. But the worst part is still to come. And now, for the most annoying part throughout all of this. The first phase of the Ivory King boss fight. If you want a really good advice, get the stone ring, because these enemies won't get staggered by the Mailbreaker alone. So yeah, they will pretty much just completely annihilate you. But with the stone ring, you're actually able to stagger these guys. So that helps. And if you ask me, these Ilium Lois Knights can go suck on a dirty asshole. Before this run, this used to be my favorite boss fight in the entire game. But after doing this challenge run, I'm not so sure anymore. A lot of perspective changes when you do challenge runs. So to that end, my favorite boss fight of Dark Souls 2 is hands down the Poo in the Pit. This footage right here took me approximately 600 hours or so to get. Simply because of this first phase. Because these Lois Knights, they fucking gang up on you. They don't care about any of the other knights that you have rescued who are there to help you. They only care about one thing, and that's taking you down. So pay attention to your surroundings and make sure you're always keeping an eye out for these Ilium Lois Knights, because they can just attack you from out of nowhere, charging straight out of a portal or whatever. They will find a way. Now, I have said that a lot of the DLC boss fights takes a long time, but this takes the cake. This was by far the longest boss fight I had to endure. It took me almost 15 minutes, including the first phase. So yeah, at this point I pretty much just felt like I've been shoryukened in my ass, in my head. And if you're wondering how that feels, it's basically like a brain hemorrhage, but times 10. Or you know, like having 10 brain hemorrhages at once. There are 2 rules that applies for every Dark Souls game. 1. Stamina management is key. And 2. Never, ever get greedy. I probably should have said that back at the beginning of the video. Back when I said I hope you pick another route than me, what I meant was I really hope that you just killed Nashandra back then after the Throne Watcher and Defender and claimed the Throne of Want. Because going through all of this and getting the King's Blessing, it just broke my mind and my brain and my soul and my skull. And my skull broke all my possessions. Even this footage right here of the burned Ivory King is just regular new game. What the fuck? You were at my side all along. My true mentor. It's over. It's over. The hemorrhaging is over. Fuck. Finally, I can return to something more simple. And even though we're getting close to the end, I still have lost way more brain cells and will to live than what should be allowed. So now I'll quickly go smoke a cigarette. Or 100. While crying in the shower.
Fire, coveter of the throne. Seek strength. The rest will follow.
Psych! Okay, this is the final part, and this will be very, very easy compared to what we've just been through. With the King's blessing, Nashandra is kind of trivialized. Now, if you have already killed Nashandra, you're probably sitting in the Throne of Want. That's nice. But if you're like me and don't want to sit in that room, you might want to walk away and go back. Because I might want to ask Shan a lot about the big book in the mansion. I still haven't gotten any answers about that book. Why is it there? What does it contain? What's it about? Who wrote it? And why is it so big? Or you could always flex your beauty for the entire world to see. There's just too many options.
Not one of them stood here, as you do now. You, conqueror of adversities.
I bet you're pretty turned on right
Give
now.
us your answer.
And after Nashandra, it is the father to the tree from Pocahontas. He's a very old tree, very fragile and fortunately easy to deal with. It just really hurts whenever he summons the sun and it actually hits you. Or that. I'm gonna let the rest of this fight play out and you will see me towards the end. It's over. It's over. It's finally over. At last, I have beaten Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, with only a mail breaker, without any weapon buffs, infusions, brightbox or resins. And the DLC's a New Game Plus, simply because I hate myself. Tune in next time where I try to do a Soul Level 1 run, with no death, no bonfire, fat rolling only, and no weapons I have any stat requirements for. Of course I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go smack my head against the wall and forget this whole thing ever happened.
There is no path. Beyond the scope of life, beyond the reach of love. What could possibly await us? And yet we seek it insatiably, such as our fate.